Morning, welcome back to Visit Fylde Coast. It's an absolutely glorious morning. It's only 9 o'clock and I've had to put a scarf on because I've got a cold draft around my neck. But I'm out in a cardigan and it's really warm. So I'm hoping it's going to be a lovely day today. And it's Thursday, so I thought we'd start with a little bit of a look at the diggers, my favourite subject. Because we've had some really bad weather. And the Wyre Beach Management Project is starting to kind of grind to an end, slowly but surely. So we're at the beautiful Russell Beach in the sunshine, and we're going to go and have a look and see what they're doing, because there's lots of diggers out this morning. So if you're new in these parts, make sure that you subscribe, make sure that you've signed up for your Visit Fylde Coast email newsletter, and we'll go and have a look and see what's happening. Look at this log! That's beautiful. What a lovely bit of wood. That's a perfect table, that, isn't it? So the sea has bounced that all the way from out there somewhere, and it's dropped it right at the top of our beach. And imagine what that must weigh. We've got a teeny tiny log in our garden and it nearly killed Kevin bringing it off the beach. So, if you've been following these videos, you'll know all about the Wyre Beach Management Project, which is to stabilise and lift the level of the shingle beach at the foreshore from Westway, which is up there and joins on to the Russell Coastal Defence Scheme, all the way to the Blackpool boundary with Wyre, which is at Kingsway, which is right down there beyond the stepped sea defences. And that will protect against erosion and overtopping. So you say tomato, I say tomato. Some people really don't like the look of the rocks. Personally, I quite like them. I don't find them offensive at all. But more importantly, these are the things that are going to do the job and are going to keep us dry. So along this section, they've put a piece of toe protection because there isn't any reliable proper sea defence underneath this, which is the old sea wall. So this wall curves out underneath the beach quite deep and it ends round about here. And because of how old it is and because of when it was built, some of it's got toe protection, some of it's not, some of it's just concrete. So this line of rocks that run that way will protect this seawall, this little old one here, from being undermined and collapsing. That would be tragic, wouldn't it? And these rocks have already done quite a substantial job. So you'll remember that they dug really deep, and this is just the tip of the iceberg, as you might say. So they dug really deep in order to put these across the edge of the old sea wall. And then they backfilled it manually up to the wall. And you'll know that we've had some really bad storms. I mean, just even this time last week, it was vile. And the weather has washed more rocks up. So there's just literally the tips of these rocks showing which run that way. Still working on this section. This is the last bit to be finished. And they're expecting to be done by next spring. Because there's quite a bit of concreting work to do down there, which is at the tank traps at Russell School. So if I just zoom in, you can see the diggers down there working, and they're doing the concrete works and the stuff down there. So there's a crossover ramp at every groin, so that you don't have to come off the beach and you can carry on walking. And that's the concrete work that they're doing at the moment. So here you can see they've left a gap because they need to be able to get the diggers through. But when it's all finished and the job's done and they've all gone, you will end up with these rocks here, joining up. They'll fill this little gap in that they've left for the diggers, and that joins up to the toe protection which runs that way. And it forms these little bays. You can see how much the beach is built up just in a short period of time if I swing the camera around and you look at it like that. And this is one of the completed crossover ramps. So these are in every groin. So you've got somewhere that you can get over the ramp without having to come off the beach when the tide's coming in. And these are built in layers, so you've got some ordinary quickset concrete underneath, and then on top there is a layer of strong marine grade concrete, because it's obviously a really severe environment. So this is your ramp that you can go up and over, and this is what each one looks like when it's finished. And these obviously are a nice little spot, so you can perch your backside and have 2 minutes on a rock and just enjoy the view and enjoy what the beach looks like. And then over a period of time, these rocks will change colour and they will get covered in algae, like these ones down here that have been in a while. And that becomes a home for all kinds of marine wildlife and bugs and beasties and things that the birds feed on, and creates the food chain for everything that comes above it. So you can see that we've got banks of sand already starting to form and level up. And this beach is actually quite a lot. It's a few weeks since I came down here. It's quite a lot higher than it was. Wow, that's amazing. So I'm going to go down here now and have a look and see what they're doing. But these crossover ramps are really popular. In fact, the rocks are at weekends when the beach is particularly busy. Bearing in mind it's still just gone 9 o'clock. They're used by families for sitting on and playing on. Obviously, children need to be supervised. Don't do anything silly. Don't go climbing anywhere that you shouldn't be climbing. But they are really useful for just sitting on for 2 minutes, especially when everything else is so wet and there's nowhere to sit on a beach. So you can see down here, it's difficult looking at it on a video compared to the 3D vision that you get with your own eyes, because that has actually built up a lot. I can see a big difference, but you might not be able to tell properly on a film. People have asked why they've not just replaced the old wooden groins. So here's the science. Here's the science bit. Are you ready? You'll have noticed that all these rocks are all odd higgledy-piggledy shapes. So they've got angles and corners and curves and whatnot. And there are also some quite significant gaps in between them, like these down here. So it's a combination of the irregularity of the rock and the spaces between it that break up the wavelength of the water as it's coming into shore. So it breaks up the wavelength and it confuses it, so it bounces off in loads of different directions. If you've ever watched the water when it's coming in and it lands on this pebble area here, that's exactly what the beach does. It's each little piece of pebble and sand and stone is dissipating the water, so it just takes the energy out, which is converted into sound, and it's converted into a bubble. So that's the science bit. So a wooden groin is a solid substance which would bounce the water back. So you end up with scouring, which is why you always ended up with long channels down the sides of the old school wooden groins. So when you reflect a wave, you get a bigger wave sent back behind it, which is why you end up with great big waves bouncing off tall, high sea walls. And then when you come to a short sea wall, like this one is increasingly shrinking, you only get little waves forming above it. So you can't get waves forming any higher than the height of the sea wall above it, which is why this wall is incredibly important. And these little stumps here are the remnants of some old wildlife boards that the Russell Beach group put in, because at one point we ended up with quite a natural dune starting to form. You can see some plants starting to grow already. And quite a substantial dune formed along here because the beach had built up. But because there's no substructure to support it and to keep it in place, as soon as the storm started, it washed all the beach material away, it washed all the plants away, and everything went. The thing is that these rocks will hold the beach material that's collected, they'll hold the vast majority of it in place where it is. I've already said this 100 times, I'll say it 101. Yes, it looks a mess because it's a building site, because they're actually building it and the work is still underway. So this is a groin that they've been sorting out right in the middle of, well, it's where North Promenade joins Russell Promenade, right in the middle of where everybody can watch it. So they are excavating the beach and then they're putting the rocks in the right positions into the holes. That big black layer of fabric that the guys sat on is the geotextile membrane, which goes in the bottom of the hole, and that's to stop the rocks from dropping and sinking into the beach. And it's a very precise and very clever system that they have. It's very interesting to watch. It's very interesting to watch. You can just see the crossover ramp peeping out from between the rocks, just at the back of where he's working right now. So there is a ramp on every groin. And then all these rocks that are just scattered all over the beach down here, they will all be positioned into their proper positions, all in this line here. And the line then will join up to these rocks here. And as the sea batters and storms blow, it will build beach material up so that quite a lot of the rock disappears and you just end up with the tip of the iceberg showing. And now can you see he's putting his bucket on, he's putting the jaws on the stone to look at it. That's to take the GPS reading, so it's obviously not quite where he wanted it to be. So he's very carefully just picking it up and moving it and putting it somewhere else. So now he's stopped again with his bucket on it, and as he puts the tip of the claw on the rock, it takes a GPS reading. There you go, look. So he's satisfied now that that one's in the right place. It's all very scientific. It looks like a big rockery and a big pile of rubbish just being plunked on a beach, but it's not. It's very interesting. Oh, this is interesting here. This is at the end of Thornton Gate. So all these rocks, if you remember, were put in to protect the line of the Walney subsea cable to stop the diggers from driving over the top of it, because it comes from the wind farm up to Thornton Gate here and then under the wall. And if you remember, these rocks were all enormous, fully exposed and look like our very own little Stonehenge. And over the period of the time that they've actually been working on the beach, they've disappeared. So that's the kind of effect that you're going to get from all these different groins. And they're all set at pretty much the same level as they come through. So there is actually toe protection underneath this beach all the way that way down against the sea wall. And it's just completely gone. It's just invisible. You can't see it at all, but trust me, it's definitely there. So you will end up with the beach levelling out at a fairly stable level as the sea drops beach material. It's quite high up here, and at the moment it's lower here where there's been more erosion, because it bounces against this little wall here. It bounces against here and it creates turbulence, so it doesn't build up as easily. Which is why this little bit is lower than the bit up there, because you've got bigger waves forming. And here comes the next delivery. It's just starting to run out of rocks, look. It's like a ballast. It's amazing watching them, really is. he's changed his mind, he's going somewhere else. Perhaps he felt me watching him. Joking apart, they're all on shortwave radios, so they'll all be talking to one another while they're randomly scattered all over the beach. Now that sounded noisy, but I'm standing relatively close by and I didn't feel anything. Didn't feel any vibration at all. Right, off back to my Thursday morning perch now, I think. So if you've got any questions, you can call into the venue, which is this building on the left-hand side here, on a Thursday morning between 9 and 12. If I'm not there, I'll be somewhere on the beach doing photos or videos, but I'll not be far away. And if you've got any questions, you can email me. It's jane@therabbitpatch.co.uk. And until next time, we'll see you later. Bye for now.